Hi, everybody. Welcome to Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV. I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And for those who may be new to the show, if you would please subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And please don't forget to give the show a like. Now, tonight I have my good friend, Dave Spinks. Dave and I go way back. We go back to 2013 was the first time I met Dave, and he's a very dear friend of mine. And I'm very, very excited to have him back on the show again. Let me tell you a little bit about Dave. Dave Spinks has been researching and investigating the paranormal since 1986. He retired from a 20-year career in the U.S. military and federal law enforcement in 2011. Since that time, he has conducted several hundred investigations, including hauntings, reports of strange creatures, as well as UFO encounters. He has been on various television shows to include Terror in the Woods, Paranormal 911, The Unexplained, Strange Creatures, and These Woods Are Haunted, to name a few. And those are featured on the Travel Channel and Destination America.
He was History.
Oh, in the History Channel. Wow.
Yeah, they'll be coming out soon, some of them.
He has been featured. He also was featured in the film Flatwoods Monster: A Legacy of Fear by Small Town Monsters. He has been a featured guest on hundreds of paranormal-themed radio shows and podcasts. He is often a featured guest speaker at paranormal conferences around the country. Dave is also an author on topics that include cryptids, hauntings, and UFOlogy, releasing his first book, West Virginia Bigfoot, in 2018, and was featured in the highly successful Woodknock series by David Weatherly. Dave Spinks is also, let me show you, he is also the owner of this extremely haunted Willow's Weep house. And we did do a show on Willow's Weep, and we may do another one. This house is extremely crazy haunted. And Dave, this is Dave's book, West Virginia Bigfoot, his first book. Congratulations, Dave. Where can they buy a copy?
They can buy a copy at Amazon in the author and book section if they just type in my name or the name of the book, or they can buy a signed copy directly from me off of my PayPal. The PayPal email is topshooter1569@gmail.com, and you can just put in the description what product you want and your return address, and I'll ship you a signed copy.
Thanks, Dave. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thanks for having me. As always, my friend.
Always a pleasure to have you. We've done so many shows together, and we always have fun. Love having you on the show. Sometime we got to go back and do some of those ITC shows that we used to do. Those were so much fun.
Oh, yeah. Those are good old days.
Yep. Dave, before we start, you wanted to talk a little bit about this Fallout 76.
Yeah, like I said, something that's near and dear to my heart is the monsters of West Virginia, the folklore and the lore, and all the stories and the sightings that people talk about. And throughout the entire state, the state has literally tens of thousands of reports of strange monsters seen in the sky, on the ground, in the woods of West Virginia by numerous types of people, to include law enforcement, doctors, lawyers, teachers, people with high credibility that have nothing really to gain by coming out and saying, hey, I saw this strange creature one night when I was driving down the road, or I was out in my backyard in the garden and I looked up and I saw a flying humanoid creature, or whatever the case. There's literally tens of thousands of reports in this little state alone of strange cryptid creatures. And, for me, it's near and dear to my heart because that's what started me in the paranormal. I had my own sighting with my grandfather back in 1983, and that's what started me on my search for answers into this field.
Wow. So tonight Dave's and what better person to talk about these West Virginia monsters but Dave Spinks.
The Fallout 76 game, Norene, is really cool because they actually created a video game that encompasses a lot of these strange monsters in it, and the kids went crazy over it. It features the Mothman, Flatwoods Monster, and so many more. The Grafton Monster, the snarly yowl, and it features landmarks in West Virginia like Point Pleasant and Camden, the old Camden Haunted Amusement Park, and so many other places. It's really cool. It's a huge tourism thing for West Virginia to have a video game created from the strange cryptid monsters that have been reported all over the states for over hundreds of years. So it's a really cool thing, and that's what it stems from real people sightings and stories of these creatures. A video game was created from it.
Wow, that must be some game. I don't play games. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, my son has it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's really neat, and it brings to the forefront West Virginia's folklore and the tales of these strange creatures from many different walks of life. People with various cultural backgrounds here in the state, and it's been a really big thing for the state of West Virginia.
Wow. Well, Dave's a West Virginia native. He lives in West Virginia. In fact, Dave investigates the woods right outside his home.
Yeah, I live on top of a mountain surrounded by millions of acres of woods, and it's a beautiful place. It's a wild place. That's why they call it Wild, Wonderful West Virginia. And they also call it the Mountain State. So, it gets its name because of how the terrain is and whatnot.
Okay, so Dave gave me a list of monsters. Now, some of these I've never heard of before.
Yeah, I tried to mix it up a little bit, some of the lesser-known monsters for tonight, Of course, everybody knows who the Mothman is and some of the ones we are going to talk about, but I threw in a couple that aren't as really well-known, but they're well-known by other names, okay?
All right, so let's start then with the white thing.
Yeah, the white thing is a freaky little creature that was first talked about in a book by a woman named Ruth Ann Music in 1965, and the book was called The Telltale Lilac Bush. It's a great book. If you've never read that book, I highly recommend it. You can get it on Amazon to this day. The creature, she wrote it in the book because there was literally so many sightings, numerous sightings of this weird white creature, right, that she decided to write about it in her book. And the book doesn't only talk about that creature, but it has kind of old folklore tales and ghost tales, and it's a really good book. So if you're into that kind of stuff, which you probably are because you're watching this show, I highly recommend the book. And it's not very expensive. I think it's like $10 or something, but it's a really good book. This creature was reported being seen all over the Kanawha River Valley. Now, the Kanawha River Valley, the biggest city in West Virginia is in that area. It's called Charleston. And numerous people had seen this thing, and the descriptions of it are kind of like the size of a black bear, so that's a pretty good size, right? It had these long saber-toothed fangs, like a saber-toothed tiger. It had matted, whitish, dirty hair, a tail like a raccoon, and it stunk of sulfur. And numerous people had seen this thing all over the place. And some people said in some reports they likened it to what is known as a sheep squatch. But to me, that's two totally different creatures, because a sheep squatch has been reported as, by most people, as walking on two legs. This thing is more like a bear would be, and walks on four legs and doesn't really stand up on its hind legs like a two-legged creature or a bipedal creature would. Even going back to the 1990s, there was a whole nother flurry of sightings of this thing in an area known as Ripley, and it's right down from where the original sightings were taking place. And people went crazy over this. Like, they were out looking for this thing with their shotguns and all kinds of stuff. And it kind of caused a little bit of a mass panic, as a lot of these sightings do when there's a lot of people involved that claim to have seen this strange creature. And this creature has some, what you would call maybe some supernatural abilities, because people said it would appear at will and disappear right in front of your face. So it would like manifest, and then boom, it's gone. So
That's weird.
this thing appears to have some kind of weird supernatural abilities to appear and disappear at will. And people had reported seeing it stand up on its hind legs near the riverbank and drinking water and whatnot. And I think Norene had a picture of it to show you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The picture that she has is really the only known drawing that I've seen, and the original was carved in a piece of wood, and then someone kind of sketched over it to draw what it looked like on paper. So
yeah, that's weird. And
it's a weird creature, man.
Well, Dave, these creatures keep cropping up. Now, this was seen in the 1990s.
Yeah, there's sightings that occur to this day of this thing. So what it is, who knows? Could be maybe. People often ask me, well, what do you think that thing is? I don't know if it's some kind of supernatural creature where it can appear and disappear. Maybe it's some kind of Native American elemental or something to that effect.
I don't know, but it's just so strange, Dave, that so many of these creatures keep popping up. And I mean, there's so many of them.
I mean, it's one thing if one person sees it, but this is reported by numerous people. So many, in fact, back in 1965, in that time era, that Miss Ruth Ann Music wrote a book. Wrote about it in her book. And in those days, people really didn't talk about that kind of stuff. So it was a really big deal for that many people to have seen and reported the same looking type creature.
Yeah.
All around the area of the Canal River Valley. It was also seen in the 90s in Cross Lanes a lot too. It was another town right in the same area as Charleston and Ripley.
That's weird. The thing that I find strange is that it appears and disappears right before your eyes.
Yeah. So it gives it kind of like a supernatural, some kind of weird, it's got these weird powers that is able to appear and disappear, But people have said that about Bigfoot as well,
Yeah.
So what are these things?
Dave, I don't know. It's really strange.
Maybe it's some kind of interdimensional creature from another dimension. We don't know.
Okay,
that's
but
we're doing it.
So whoever reported, the woman that wrote the book, did she say that it disappeared? It seemed to disappear. She actually saw it.
She wrote about people's sightings, what people had said they saw. So, yeah, I'm sure she put in the book that, if I recall right, yeah, she talks about people saying that they witnessed this thing appear and disappear.
Okay. Interesting. Dave, move over to your other side. Yeah, I'm putting pictures in with you, so I need you to move over. All right, hold on. Okay, just a minute. So the next one, this one here is the Grafton I never heard of this one.
Well, this is a pretty well-known creature in West Virginia. This creature was first reported by a man named Robert Cockrell, who was actually a reporter for the Grafton Sentinel. And he saw this monster as he rounded a curve on his way home from work. And he reported it to his editor, and they ran an article in the paper, and people went crazy. And they were out in mob force going up and down the area with their shotguns. And this went on for days. No physical evidence was ever found of the creature, but several people had said they had saw this thing. And it's a really weird description. And I want to read this because I want to make sure I get all of it right, because it's really weird. This thing was huge. He said it stood 7 to 9 feet tall, okay? And it had very pale skin that resembled what a seal would have. And it would elicit some kind of weird whistle sound as it stalks its victims, is what they would say. And it's pretty creepy. Now, a extraterrestrial. And when Mr. Cockrell didn't saw the thing, he didn't report seeing a head, so they theorized that the creature was kind of like one of them ogres or something, that the shoulders were real up high and the head was down in front like this. And it was really creepy, and it was all over the newspapers. And Norene had the picture of it on there for you.
Yeah.
So
it's right next to you.
And they believe that it was a meat eater for whatever reason, because I guess they found some carcasses nearby where the sighting was, and that were all torn apart. And there are still sightings of this creature being reported today. You know, it's really creepy stuff. I just wrote some notes down so I can remember some key points of this thing. But the man drew that picture of it. That's what he saw, and he said the thing was huge, man. I mean, 7 to 9 feet tall. I mean, and there's a ton of newspaper articles on this thing, and it was reported being seen by numerous people. But then the local police department got involved, and then I think they put some pressure on the head editor of the paper, and he kind of shut it down and whatnot. And you know, it's one of those things. So many people report seeing these types of creatures or different types of creatures, and then when numerous people report it, and it kind of becomes this mass frenzy of people freaking out, being scared, and then, you know, they just kind of shut it down. And it's the same with UFOs and other creature sightings. You know, mass panic seems to ensue in some cases. There was literally hundreds of people running up and down the road with their guns on this deal too, you know, because they wanted to shoot this thing and kill it because they were scared, you know.
But again, there are no images. I mean, have somebody really? So where did they get this drawing from? Somebody obviously
the man drew it. I guess Diane had it drawn, or he drew it.
Wow.
The guy that saw it.
Yeah, that's creepy.
But there's a lot more info on the Grafton monster out there and whatnot. You know, we're just kind of touching on it a little bit. And it's just one, and it's in the video game too. You know, and they have a whole. It's got its own like following and everything. It's got its own Facebook page. You can check it out. Just type in Grafton County Monster. There's a guy up there. I forget his name, but he runs it. And whenever there's new reports, he throws them up on the page. So. Wow.
That is the strange looking. How many witnesses?
It looks like a troll.
I know it does. It does. But but how many
there was
other?
Numerous people that said they saw this thing. I don't even know the exact numbers. There was numerous people. But the reporter was the first one. So that's pretty key there in itself. You know, and this happened again. This happened in the '60s. So a person of his stature, a reporter, was not going to just come out and say and make this up, you know, because he's got a reputation to uphold.
Wow, but nobody has ever added another description except for the one that we find on the web on a web search.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But there was, you know, like I said, there was a massive amount of people involved in it, and they went nuts. So.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you if you would keep still. Stay. I've got the next one we have. I have two pictures on each side of you. So stay in the middle and don't move.
It's hard because I'm in a.
I know. Stay. Move over a little.
That's killing my back.
Oh, honey. Well then, okay then.
Is this good right here?
No, you have to move over the other way.
This way.
Right there, and don't move. Right there. Okay. So, all right. The next one now is the snarly yowl devil dog.
Yeah. So the snarly yowl is an older term. It's another name for a devil dog or a werewolf type creature, or the old black dog omen. Okay, brought over from the European countries from way back. This thing. There's been a ton of sightings over on the West Virginia-Maryland border in a place near Harper's Ferry, which is notorious for hauntings and the whole 9 yards. Some of these reports date back to the 1700s. There's actual documentation in the towns over there of people having these encounters with these big black dogs. some of them are really freaky stories too. Like one guy said he was driving down the road one night, and one was in the road and stood up right in front of him on two legs, and he hit it because he couldn't stop, and he slammed on his brakes after he ran over the thing. He looks back in his rear view and he sees the thing stand up and just going just crazy mad, screaming and doing all this wild stuff, and started running at him. So he gunned it and got out of there, and he actually had dents in his car. Another report, they way back in the late 1700s, the townspeople got together and they got this crack shot hunter that was notorious for killing things, and they brought him in, and he supposedly shot the thing, and it never faced it one bit, and he knows he hit it, and everyone knew how good of a shot he was, but this thing just, the bullets went right through the thing and never made it fall down or anything. But he said he saw the But these devil dogs and these werewolves, those are really old stories. They go way back, and they're over from the Europeans who settled in the area, and those are still seen all over the state today, reported all over the state, all over the country. Really, there's still werewolf sightings, and in this one particular area, right on the border of West Virginia and Maryland. I mean, it's so prevalent that they have I think I gave you a picture of the sign. That blue sign is like a historical sign that's there, and they talk about this black dog that's seen everywhere.
No, you didn't send me that one.
I might have a print off of it. Let me look here. Yeah.
And this is another. That one. Oh, I thought that came out of a book.
No, this is an actual picture of there's a big travel sign, it's on the ground.
Oh.
And you can look at it.
Oh, I didn't know what that was. I thought it came out of a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll read it to you.
Okay.
I'll read it to you. It says, "Beware of the snarly yowl. Legend has it that the shadow of a black dog used to prowl the heights of South Mountain. One night, a huntsman famous as a sure shot encountered the beast. He aimed and fired his rifle. The shot went right through the animal with no effect. He fired again and again, each shot passing through the shadowy beast. Finally, overcome with dread, the huntsman fled."
Wow.
So that's one of the really old stories, from way back, and they actually posted that, on one of the signs that in that area.
Wow. And Dave, this is another monster that seems to appear or disappear.
Yeah. Well, it's in this particular case, they say this thing was more like a shadow, but it had solid form because the guy, when he hit it with his car, he felt it, But when the huntsman shot it, the bullets just simply passed through it like it was nothing. And never hurt it or anything. So, and we all know the werewolf stories, man gets bit by a wolf, turns into a werewolf, he hunts people down and eats them. And then you have the whole devil dog, the gates of hell and all that creepy stuff, and then the hellhounds will come to get you, and that creepy stuff. So, it's a legend and lore of West Virginia as well. It was brought here by the Europeans, and people still claim to see these things to this very day. And that's in the video game too.
Wow. And everybody will. Royce will take your questions when Dave is finished talking about. We have two more monsters to talk about, and they're starting to ask you questions about the Flatwood monster. And Dave will take his questions. I'll tell Royce when we're ready for the questions. Okay. Okay. The next one, Dave, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
The Flatwood monster.
Yeah. Are you ready for a Flatwoods monster?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready. Oh,
okay.
You're freezing.
Oh. We talked about what I was worried about.
Okay. Yeah, it says poor.
Let me check something.
Okay. So it seems to be okay right now. I think you're okay, honey.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. So, Flatwoods Monster, September 1952. Massive UFO sightings were going on all over the East Coast in 1952, to include Washington, D.C., where numerous witnesses, including military officials and politicians, witnessed squadrons of UFOs flying over the White House and D.C. area. Also, back in those days, there were so many UFO sightings that pilots were ordered to chase them and shoot them down. We lost many pilots that were killed in training accidents with no explanation to their families that what they were really doing was chasing UFOs and attempting to shoot these things down. Well, Flatwoods Monster comes into play in September of 1952 during the peak time of these UFO sightings, and a group of kids were playing football at the local grade school there in town, and they all saw a fireball coming through the sky. But this wasn't any normal fireball. This fireball slowed down and changed direction and landed in a field behind their house. So they all ran home. They got their mom, told her what they saw, and one of the boys' cousins was with them. He was also a National Guard member. They grabbed flashlights and they headed up to what was then called the Fisher Farm. They went up the hill, and they started, as they got closer to where they thought this thing landed, they began to smell noxious fumes and encounter this weird smoke. It was really nasty, like a sulfuric smell, and it was actually burning their eyes and stuff, according to their reports. Well, two of the boys had looked over to the right. There was a ravine there, kind of a downslope area, and they reported they saw a large craft landed in the field. And the other ones didn't see it because they were concentrating on what was ahead of them. They had their flashlights on. It was, of course, dark by the time they got up there. And one of the boys saw a movement by a tree and put his light there, and next thing you know, there's a 10 to 12 foot tall creature that resembled this thing right next to me, staring at them, emitting smoke and hovering. Of course, they were scared out of their wits, and they all turned around and ran down the hill. One of the boys said that his mother leaped the cattle fence gate, which was about 6 foot tall, and didn't miss a beat. That's how scared they were. They ran home. The sheriff was notified, and the local newspaper was notified, and the military was already there, which was very strange. The military special forces unit was already there, was split up into 2 units. One was down on the Elk River searching for what they said was a downed airplane, and the other unit came in covertly on the Fisher Farm. Now, to have that kind of response time, that means the Pentagon was tracking that object or the multiple objects that were seen that night and knew it came down there. Excuse me. And they had to have this in there now because, we had something go down there. So, right there was a massive government cover-up. The colonel, or the captain at the time, his name was Captain Levitt, he was in charge of that unit. And he was ordered to collect any kind of specimens or anything he could and send it post-haste back to D.C. Years later, he conducted an interview, and he said that he had turned in the evidence, shipped it back, and never heard anything back. And he was convinced that it was a cover-up. So, this thing made worldwide news. The mom and one of the sons were flown to New York to tell the story. The kids were all interviewed separately by multiple authors and reporters and people and law enforcement officers. And what was very fascinating about it is they all drew the same picture. It was likened to this, and their stories never varied one iota. So that would tell me they all saw the same thing and they weren't making it up. Now, there's only two remaining eyewitnesses left to this day. And they'll tell you now they wish they never saw what they saw.
and they don't even like talking about it anymore. And there's Fred and Eddie May. So, me being from that area, I was born right up the road in that county. The Flatwoods Monster goes by three names: the Flatwoods Monster, the Green Monster, and the Braxton County Monster. People tend to associate, local names with stuff like this. And I was born in Sutton, West Virginia, which is in Braxton County, which the Braxton County Monster, or the Flatwoods Monster, or the Green Monster. And I grew up hearing these stories because my mom's cousins went to school with them boys, and they were terrified themselves to get off to walk home from school. They didn't even, and back in those days, people were really poor. They had outhouses. They didn't even have bathrooms in their house. So they had to go outside and use the outhouse at night, and they were terrified, and they would often get in trouble because they didn't want to go out to the outhouse because it was away from the house, and they would get in trouble for using the restroom off the porch.
Oh, poor.
And it's really crazy,
Oh, my God.
So, this story was covered on a new show that just came out called Project Blue Book, and it's the Hollywood version, of course. The monster was totally changed in its depictions on the TV show and whatnot, but it brings good attention to the story because the story was really huge, and it kind of got, for whatever reason, got pushed under the rug. There was reports of men in black walking around town threatening people, not to say anything, they didn't see nothing happened here, that kind of thing. All kinds of stuff went on. And then when the whole Point Pleasant and Mothman stuff went down, this story kind of got pushed under the rug for many, many years. And, they tried to have a festival there in Flatwoods about this whole deal, and it did good for a couple of years, and then it floundered again. But there's a good guy named Andrew that runs the Flatwoods Monster Museum who's really trying hard to bring it back, and he's done well. And, I was fortunate enough to be featured in the new Flatwoods Monster movie by Small Town Monsters because I am a local guy and I was born right there, and I know, the history. And there was the thing with this whole deal, there was multiple days where witnesses had encounters with this creature. A young couple named George and Edith Snatowski, and this is what I talked about in the movie. The very next day, they were traveling home from Cincinnati, Ohio, visiting some relatives, and they were from New York, and they had some extra time, so they took the scenic route. Well, about 15, 20 miles away from this sighting, they had a crazy encounter. The car just quit for no reason, and George knew the battery was good and everything. He got out, he checked everything, there was nothing wrong, but the car just would not start. He got in and out, checking everything looked good, and then they started smelling the same sulfury, noxious fumes to the point where they became nauseous and they were choking and gagging. And the baby, they had a little newborn in the back seat who was like not a newborn, but an infant who was 18 months old, and he started crying. He was coughing and hacking, so they rolled the windows up and they didn't know what to do. And then George freaked out. He thought, well, maybe the car's on fire, right? So he jumped out, started checking everything, couldn't find nothing wrong with the car, and then he noticed a white purplish glowing light over the hill, over the guardrail, and it was down through the woods. So he kind of got out and went and kind of tried to get a better view of this thing. Well, when he saw it, he described it as in his only interview he ever gave was in an old men's, now defunct magazine. And people would always try to get this man to do interviews, and he said, I did that. I talked about my story once. I don't want to talk about it ever again because it freaked him out this bad. So he sees this white, purplish, glowing globe thing. He described it as street globe. And I don't know if you guys have ever remember the ones in the 50s, but, the big white globe that sat on the street lights. And he described this thing as like 100 times bigger than that. It was really big. So he decided he wanted to get a closer look at this thing. And as he cut the distance from where he first saw it to about half, he started feeling these electrical shocks all over his body. He started feeling nauseous, and the closer he got, the worse it got. And then when he got within really close range of it, he said he felt like a billion needles or a million needles went through his body, and he dropped to his knees. He he had to get up and start stumbling back to the car. As he went back, he was kind of getting a hold of a tree to lean on and everything. And as he got back closer to the car, he noticed his wife looking at him through the passenger window, but she was looking behind him, like through him, and she let out the most awful blood-curdling scream. Looked back to his right like that. That's when he seen a creature floating coming towards him. He saw it in silhouette. He couldn't see the details because of the light from the globe or the object behind him. All he could see was this massive silhouette of this thing. So he runs back to the car, stumbling and puking and just struggling, fumbling with the door, trying to get it open, gets in the car, grabs the baby and his wife, pulls them down into the floorboards of the car, and he's getting in the glove box because he knows he has a knife in there. He gets that out, and they're cowering in this car for, what seemed like eternity to them, I'm sure. And after a little bit, nothing happened, or he didn't hear anything, so he peeked up, imagine him down, and then he peeks up above the dash, and that's when he sees the creature right in front of the car. And he has this long, spindly arm with forks for fingers, like forked coming out. And he described it as what it looked like his thing was inspecting the car, trying to figure out what the car was. And then suddenly the thing just turned to its left and glided off. He reported he never saw any legs on this thing. He never saw, anything like that, and it glided off. Well, of course he didn't want to get out of the car. They were scared to death. And they were just happy the thing was gone. And then they both noticed the globe lift off out of the woods about 2,000 feet, and it started swinging in a pendulum motion like this, and it started going faster and faster, and then shoot, it just shot off into the sky, leaving like a trail of dust, sparkly dust, they said.
Damn.
And within a few seconds, he said he's tried to start the car, and voila, it started up, and they flew down the road to a diner trying to gather themselves. They knew they couldn't tell anyone about what happened, but they went in and, didn't know what to do. They were disheveled and everything, and they decided, okay, we'll get a hotel and we'll stay the night. So they stayed a night in a hotel, came out the next morning to get gas, and where that thing had touched the hood of the car, it was like burnt into the car, burnt the paint off and everything. And they headed home. And he gave one interview about the story, and like I said, over the years, he said he didn't want to talk about it ever again.
Oh my gosh. Dave, you are involved and part of the ufology community now as well.
A little bit.
Do you ever talk about this flatwood monster?
Oh yeah, I've talked about it before, and just what I know on it. I mean, it was a big deal. It was a really big deal, and we try to bring back. It's part of West Virginia history. I mean, it's part of West Virginia folklore. These people did see something. Something definitely happened, and it affected a lot of people's lives. One of the witnesses that was a kid then, like, he just disappeared. No one ever knew what happened to him. They don't even know if he's dead or alive or whatever. Nobody can find him. So, of course, the May boy's mother died. She died several years ago, and all the other witnesses are now dead too. But, there's action figures made about this thing. It's in video games, even before the Fallout 76. It was in Nintendo. It was a boss. It's in several different games. So, and the Japanese are fascinated by it. They made a whole line of toys of this thing and all kinds of stuff. This thing was big news in the 50s because, and you got to remember, in the 1950s, we're in the heat of the Cold War with the Russians, okay? There was UFO sightings going on all over the planet. Even the Russians were having them. And everybody was scared to death of nuclear annihilation, Instances where we were on nuclear, so we're terrified that something like this happened. When the government came in and told you not to talk about it, you didn't talk about it because of security. You just shut your mouth. Because we just came out of World War II, and now we're in the middle of the Cold War with the Russians, So there was all kinds of conspiracies and cover-ups of many different things.
But Dave, I've done other shows on UFOs and aliens, and never has there been a description of like what this flatwood monster is. Now, from some of the shows I've done, I understand, or from what I'm told, is that they believe that these aliens are shapeshifters, that they can change their look. Do you think maybe that's what this is, a shapeshifter?
I don't think this particular thing would be a shapeshifter because if you look at this thing, this is more of a cartoony depiction of it, but the outside was said to be more of a metallic, what would be maybe some sort of suit, because the thing had no legs, and it was more metallic in nature. It was spewing these fumes, right? And it glided. So also there were several objects that were said to have gone down, and they theorized that there was a rescue mission of other UFOs that came to rescue the ones that had gone down. Now, if you remember what I said, the military pilots were ordered to chase these things and shoot them down. Maybe somewhere in one of the other states they were having a dogfight. They shot this one and, messed it up a little bit. It came down, and then the other ones came in to help it get back, help it fix it, and boom, they're out of there. So there was also a third sighting of a creature with similar descriptions in Parkersburg right after the first two. They called it Bashful Billy.
Yeah.
And there was weird descriptions of a burnt body of a woman, a police officer that was said to have touched this body. He got burnt on his arm really bad. And there's some similarities to some of the things that were seen with the first two, and the third one, this actual building. So, and a lot of theories on it, and it's very, very interesting and fascinating.
Yes, absolutely. The description and the original image that was drawn in 1952. I mean, that is so. There's never been another description like this ever before that I know of.
No. I mean, when people think of UFOs, everybody thinks of Roswell and all this stuff, and that was a huge cover-up as well. But there was all these things going on around that time. 47, Roswell, we got the 52, the Flatwoods Monster, and numerous other ones. And if you're into the UFO stuff, I mean, if you look at the timeline, it all makes sense to me. I mean, we were being visited by extraterrestrials of some sort, so it's pretty creepy. And not only, and during that time, we jumped 100 years in technology in a short amount of time after the Roswell incident.
Yeah.
So, you figure it out.
Well, I love that. I love the story of the Flatwood Monster. All right, one last one. Bigfoot, and this is what your book is on. Dave's
the
book.
hide and seek champion of the world, right there.
West Virginia. Yep, and Dave
He's
lives.
the hide and seek champion of the world.
Oh, look at Dave. Yeah, wait a minute. Here. All right, show them your shirt. All right, go ahead. All right, now move over. Oh, you're frozen. You're frozen. Your image is frozen. All right, there. Now stay toward your little Flatwood Monster guy, because I have your picture of your book up. Okay, so this is Dave's new book, West Virginia Bigfoot, and who better to talk about the West Virginia Bigfoot but Dave, because Dave has also investigated Bigfoot. So, want to talk about Bigfoot?
Yeah. If you don't know, I mean, many of you are regulars on Norene's show, but if you've never seen the show before, and you've never seen me, that's what got me started in the paranormal back in, basically, as a kid, I had an encounter with a Bigfoot here in West Virginia on the Gauley River with my grandfather. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story because I want you to read the book. But I've also told the story on a television show called Terror in the Woods that airs on DA, and then Lee's Woods Are Haunted on Travel Channel as well. That's the Hollywood version. It's pretty good. They recreated it
didn't go in the woods at all for quite a while after that. And I wanted to know what it was that I saw. So back in those days, we didn't really have the luxury of the internet at all. You know, you had to rely on magazines, newspapers, and the local libraries. And little by little, I started seeing things, you know, a magazine article, Joe Blow saw Bigfoot in Washington State or Oregon or whatever. And then I came across the Patterson-Gimlin film on a TV show, and I saw a TV show called In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, and there it was, you know. And I was like, man, that looks almost exactly what I saw with my grandfather. When I was a kid, I didn't even know that, you know, show or that film existed or anything. So that fascinated me because I said, hey, I'm not the only person that's seen something like this. Many other people. And then, you know, you start hearing stories about the Yeti and the abominable snowman over in the, you know, over in the Himalayan mountains. Sorry, I've been sick, guys, so I'm kind of stuffed up and whatnot. So, yeah, so it kind of set me on a path. And then I had another experience with my other grandfather when he died, and I've talked about that before. And, you know, so one thing led to another, started snowballing, and I started just doing this stuff all the time. Then I saw another episode of In Search Of. I had this guy named Hans Holzer on it. And he was doing the EVP sessions, and I said, hey, I got a recorder just like that. I can do that. And I started doing EVPs, you know, when we went on family vacations and stuff. And lo and behold, my first EVP was Native American drumming at a place called Mesa Verde. And if you've never heard of that, check it out. It's creepy. So going back to Bigfoot. So over the years, as I was, you know, becoming an adult and I was in the military and stuff, I was still investigating and researching paranormal stuff. And I would go to people's houses, and I would also start getting an account here and there from somebody, a friend of a friend, or a family friend or whatever, that when they were fishing one time, they had this encounter with Bigfoot here in West Virginia, or they were hunting one time, or he knew, you know, so-and-so knew a guy that was driving down the road late one night and one crossed in front of him. So I started taking all these accounts and writing them down, and I just kind of put them in a file. Well, long story short, I decided, hey, I've got enough here to do a book on West Virginia Bigfoot. And I've got accounts from way back, and I've got accounts from modern day, all the way up until last year in the book, I think, right before I got done writing the book. So you've got accounts from police officers, school teachers, and park rangers, and all kinds of people. And especially here in the county I live right next to the Monongahela National Forest. Huge expanse of wilderness, very rugged, very untamed wilderness. There's places in that wilderness that people would probably never step foot in if they haven't, you know, been 100 years. Very remote terrain. So I'm often asked, well, you know, could that area sustain a creature like Bigfoot? Very easily. There's plenty of food. There's fish. There's all kinds of edible stuff. And I talk about all that in the book. And there's cave systems everywhere. Plenty of place for cover. So, you know, I put it all into a book. And there's literally, I call West Virginia the Pacific Northwest of the East Coast, because there's so many reports here in the state of West Virginia on Bigfoot. It's just uncanny. You know, if you go, the most well-known site to search reports is the BFRO site. But that's only one, and there's numerous other ones. And they all have accounts in West Virginia, and not all of them are the same accounts, okay? And that's not counting all the investigators and researchers like myself who have our own set of reports from many, many people. So if you put all that together, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of reports that have been taken by investigators and researchers such as myself, and reporting sites such as the BFRO and other ones out there. Now, if you take all that into effect, to the ones that have been reported, how many people have not reported the ones they have seen? The numbers have to be way up there. So, you know, yeah, I did a book on it, and, you know, and I got enough to do another book on it, really. So I've been researching and investigating it. I'll tell you for the first time, I've really never said this in public yet, but I am doing a Bigfoot documentary about West Virginia Bigfoot here. It's going to have some heavy hitters in it, big time names, and we're going to go out and do hunts, and it's going to all be filmed, and it's going to be probably
No, lost. Oh. Oh, Dave, you're freezing. You froze.
Because I feel that confident about the work.
I wish I counted a big West Virginia.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
unfortunately.
going out to the Monongahela and other places and camp. Now, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, you're freezing up. You're freezing.
Ghost in the machine.
Yeah, you when you were talking, you were it was kind of buffering. It was, we had a hard time hearing some of it. Can you hear us?
What I was saying was, I got a lot of ongoing research, a lot of investigations coming up here in the state, and it's an ongoing thing with me. I'll be doing this for many years to come.
Yeah. And like I told the viewers, the woods are right outside your door, and I know that you go out there and do investigating as well. Every once in a while, you'll go out there.
Well, I've got probably 7 reports within a mile and a half, 2 miles of my house from other people in the woods, hunting, fishing, whatever. And I only live from the actual place where I had my encounter back in '83, maybe 5 miles away. So
Yeah.
I'm right there.
Okay, let's see. Go ahead with questions. All right, we're going to take questions, Dave. So, is there anything else before we start taking the questions that you'd like to talk to the viewers about, Dave? Oh, by the way, Dave did a show with me. We did a show on his haunted house, Willow's Weep, and we've also done a show with the Flatwood Monster. We did a show on the Flatwood Monsters. Oh my God, that was so great. I tried to show them because you sent me the Flatwood Monster
trailer.
No, you sent me the DVD.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of hard to see because of the green screen that's going right through it. I don't know if you can see that or not. But this is fabulous, Dave, and it's been on TV so many times. And Dave,
yeah, you can get a signed copy of the DVD, the Flatwoods Monster DVD, for me from my PayPal as well, or you can go on to Amazon, and it's up there by Seth and Small Town Monsters. You can rent it for a couple of $3 or something. I think it's on there for free right now, as a matter of fact. Because whenever he comes out with a new movie, the other ones are free. So
really?
Just type in Flatwoods Monster, Legacy of Fear, or Small Town Monsters, and it'll pop up. Yeah, check it out. It's a great documentary style movie.
Yeah, it was very well done. You did an excellent job. I mean, all these shows that you've been on, you've been an excellent job with. Okay, so let's start taking some questions.
Yeah, like Norene said too. I recently filmed 2 TV shows. One is, I'll just give you a hint, it's in Point Pleasant. One is an encounter that's coming out of my new book that's coming out very soon that I had when I was still active duty law enforcement. And I'm currently preparing to film 4 episodes for 2 new TV shows, one on Travel Channel and one on History Channel. And when those get ready to come out, I'll post, and you guys can check it out if you want.
Dave, what's this Paranormal 911?
The Paranormal 911 show, it's already aired actually in Canada and the UK, and it's going to air in the States sometime in the spring. And what it is it's first responders paranormal encounters, like law enforcement officers, EMTs, firemen, and those people, including myself, who have had encounters while we were on duty, you know, tell their stories, and they recreate them on there.
Oh my God.
Now, some of the news shows I filmed, it's actually me investigating too, a few of those, so it's going to be pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. All right, let's take some questions. Let me go over here. Okay. Okay, so from Princess Patricia, question: has Dave ever seen another Bigfoot or any other cryptids?
No. No, I have not. Just the one encounter.
From Carolina Romay, does Dave have you seen an alien or a Bigfoot?
Just a Bigfoot. I have seen some stuff in the sky I can't explain. You know, I was in the Air Force for 8 years. I walked circles around many of the aircraft we had, including the B-2 bomber. So I've seen some stuff in the sky that I know for a fact that we don't have. And a human pilot could not survive the maneuvers that these things were doing. And I got some stuff coming out on that later. It'll be out next year. So.
Dave, on your investigations exploring Bigfoot in the woods, have you ever heard the noises and the bang and the throwing of rocks and the banging on the...
Yeah, I've heard some weird stuff and some weird knockbacks and stuff like that, and some distant howls that I thought may have been a Bigfoot returning a call towards us, and we're out there investigating. But you know, until you actually see the thing, you can't say you know for a fact what it is, because then you'd just be full of it.
Okay. Crystal Sullivan.
We've got recordings. We've got some recordings of howls and wood knocks that were coming back, but we can't say for sure, you know, that it was a Bigfoot doing it. We don't know, but it was awful strange because we're out in the middle of nowhere where people are not at, and some crazy stuff happened. But
okay. Crystal Sullivan wants to know, Dave, do you think the Jersey Devil is real?
Many people claim to see it. It's another one of those crazy cryptid creatures. You know, that whole story on the Jersey Devil's creepy.
Do you know, years ago, gosh, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or so, we went to New Jersey, and we went to the Jersey Pine Barrens. We went to the woods.
Yeah.
And it was pretty creepy out there. Pretty creepy. And there was some kind of a... And I didn't know anything about the Jersey Devil in those days. And we walked across this bridge, and then there was this big house that was there, and I think it's a museum, but I didn't know the history on it or whatever. It could have been the Jersey, that house where that woman lived in it when she gave birth to the Jersey Devil. I'm not sure. But it's pretty creepy in the Pine Barrens.
The Pine Barrens are massive, you know.
Yeah.
The Pine Barrens are vast expanse of land, and there's all kind of strange reports that come out of there, from UFOs to Bigfoots to the Jersey Devil and more. It's also part of what they call the Bridgewater Triangle. That whole area is just freaky with reports, you know, as well. And it's in part of the Appalachians, you know, that run right through West Virginia. The whole Appalachian region is rife with reports of strange creatures, UFOs, and ghosts. I mean, it's prime habitat for all that stuff. If it's just crazy. And then you got to add in all the people from Europe, you know, that came in. You had the Irish and the Scottish are heavy in here in West Virginia, and the Appalachians, the Dutch, the Germans, and the Italians. So they came in for coal mining, you know, in those days. Those were the big jobs around here. And they brought with them their folklore and their tales of ghosts and everything else. And then you have the whole Native American influence on top of that, who were there before all of them. So
that's awesome. That's creepy as hell. You live in a really extremely haunted state. So much. I mean, California doesn't have anything compared to what back east has. Now, Anita Ackerman wants to know, is there a cryptid known as catawampus?
Wampus cat.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, wampus cat. Yeah. Yeah, there's varying descriptions on this thing. Some people have called a Bigfoot type creature a wampus cat, you know. Others say it's more like some giant feline thing with long hair and giant saber fangs. It's kind of almost like the white thing, but a little bit different, you know. So there's various. See, in West Virginia, it's so localized. It's almost by county, you know. Each county has a name for Bigfoot. Like in this certain area, they call it the Blue Devil. In this other area over here, they call it the Yahoo. In this other area, they call it a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch. I mean, it's so localized that each little area has its own name for a Bigfoot, for what would be the same creature. So that's how it is in West Virginia, and even in other states, it's like that as well.
Oh, now this one's good. Lisa Marie wants to know, do you believe that Bigfoot is responsible for some of the 411 missing?
Yes.
You do, huh?
Yes. Definite possibility. I would lean 90% that some of the missing people in the woods would be most likely taken by a creature.
But Dave, there's also been reportings that the person will be there and they're walking and all of a sudden they disappear.
Yeah, and that's another, we did that show, me and Weatherly, with you.
Yeah. Strange
disappearances.
Yeah.
And there was reports of people just walking and people seeing them just, boom, disappear. And that, you know, a lot of people think there's some kind of time doorway right there that just opens up and swallows these people. Because some people, it happened to when they were walking right next to them and their loved one just disappeared and they could hear them screaming for help or yelling their name, but they couldn't see them. And then as the time went by, a little bit at a time, their voice got farther and farther away. And that's really creepy to me. It's like this vortex opened up and just sucked them in and they were gone.
Absolutely. And Dave, that would be the only explanation for that. They walked into another dimension. There's no other explanation. That would be the most logical. Now I know Dave Pilates, I've read some of his stuff and it kind of like he hints, but he does not want to come out and say that he believes it's Bigfoot, because then I can understand that. He doesn't want to put himself in that kind of a position. But you're probably right. That could be a possibility. It's just so strange when we did that show. And most of these disappearances are in the national parks. And the biggest, the hot spot is in California at Shasta and at Yosemite. Those are the two biggest hot spots.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've seen that recent story in the news, that little 3-year-old boy that went missing. He's telling everybody when they found him he was hanging out with a bear for 2 days. That's how he didn't die. It wasn't no bear, it was a damn Bigfoot.
No, where did this happen?
I believe it was North Carolina, and he disappeared into the woods for 3 days. They couldn't find him, then they found him alive, and he was telling everybody that he was with a bear.
Dave, I did not hear any of that. I did not hear that story. Was that on the news? Was it on the internet?
Yeah, it was all over national news.
Not ours. I never heard it.
A little boy went missing out the back of his house, and it was a wilderness area. They looked for him for 3 days, and before they finally found him, and he was alive and doing really good. And he was telling everybody he was staying with a bear for 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Now, bears typically at this time of year are in hibernation mode. They're not out and about walking around. So,
God.
Was it a Bigfoot, or was it a bear, or was it something else?
Well, the bear would have eaten them, I think.
More than likely, yeah. 3-year-old.
He would have killed them.
Easy, right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to look that up. That's awesome. I mean, I'm sorry for the kid, but I didn't hear that.
He's fine.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I'm going to check that one out. Okay, from Chippa Terry. Chippetary wants to know, will we be getting any live investigations from the Weep soon?
Yep. Yep. And possibly some TV stuff too.
Oh yeah. Hey guys, I can't say anything, but I'm telling you, I'm telling you, Dave he is the hottest thing out there now. And that's gonna be, I am so happy for him, but you're gonna hear a lot of stuff coming out soon, and I'm very, very excited for Dave. Okay, so
and don't forget, me and Weatherly Society of Supernatural, we're doing a lot of stuff. We got a lot of cool stuff getting ready to come out that we filmed last year, and there's some more stuff that we're going to be filming this year that'll be coming out too. And we don't know what platform it's going to be on yet, but as soon as we do, we'll be posting it all over, and it's some pretty cool stuff that nobody's done and nobody's been there. So, doing a lot of stuff with SOS. Got a big event at the Weep coming up in June 21st and 22nd. Mr. John Zaffis will be there investigating with us. And then we're having a speaking event on a Saturday. Tickets will go on sale for that very shortly.
And that was one of the questions. Mike Williams wants to know what happened to SOS. So you just answered
Nothing.
it.
It's me and Weatherly. We founded SOS. We've got Rosemary Ellen Guiley is a member. Eric Altman is a member. Barry Gaunt and Kristen Lee and Ross Allison is a member. So we're still doing stuff, and we go and do stuff when we can. We all have our own schedules that we're filming different stuff and doing whatever we do, but then we come together at certain times and do SOS stuff too.
Another question. This person is too many people, same tag. Are there any monsters reported around the Greenbrier Hotel?
I've got a couple of Bigfoot reports, not right there, but fairly close to there. Okay. Within 20 miles or less.
All right. A question from
Rob. All the state guys has reports of different monsters. Everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Robert Hanna. Dave, do you think Sasquatch is interdimensional being or an unknown primate?
That's a good question. There's various theories out there. I feel what I saw was a living and breathing creature because it was shaking trees and yelling and throwing big rocks at us if you read the book. Now, whether some people think it's an interdimensional creature because when they saw it, it kind of appeared and then they followed the foot tracks and followed it and then it went around some trees or bushes and then they got to that point and it was gone. No foot tracks left, nothing. Some people, and there's a lot of reports out there that people would see UFO or lights in the sky and then they would have followed by a Bigfoot sighting or vice versa. They would see a Bigfoot, but then they'd see a strange craft in the sky shortly after.
That's right.
Bigfoot. So,
yeah, they associate UFOs and Bigfoot, and that's right. I heard that before.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories out there like that. Not everybody believes that. There's various theories, like I said, but there's accounts of all this weird stuff interacting with the Bigfoots and whatnot.
Yes. Oh, that is so weird.
And then you have, if you go to the more scientific method, pseudoscience, whatever. There's a lot of scientists that think that this thing is the missing link between man and ape. So, you have that whole theory as well.
All right, from Michael Kane. Hi, Michael. Dave, when you were a corrections officer, ever work haunted pods? He said when I was a CO and SCI, I worked on some haunted housing units.
Yeah, prisons are very haunted locations, especially if they're old. They've had a lot of tragedy and death in them. And I've investigated numerous prisons and jails in my time, and especially the older ones, they got a lot of activity in them.
Okay, Carolina Rome, what is the strangest or scariest thing you've ever experienced? Oh my
There's
God.
too many. I can't put my finger really on one thing. I've had a lot of unnerving things happen to me over the years. One of the ones I talk about is when I got my head cracked and I was bleeding by something at the Rhodes Hotel in Indiana. Can't explain that at all. Numerous people saw it happen live at the time, and I still scratch my head how the hell that happened. And I've been scratched in other locations and had a big red mark smacked on the back of my neck at Wanda Kay's Gambling Museum.
What about your eye?
Yeah, my eye. During the investigation, a blood vessel just popped in my eye. I've never had anything like it before or since. And it was during a part when it was very negative on the ghost box, and it was really heavy feeling, and it was saying it was going to hurt us and kill us and all this stuff. And next thing you know, my eye started burning. So I went to the bathroom and looked, and I had a blood vessel just burst in my eyeball.
Yeah, we did a show and we showed your eye.
Yeah. These things can reach out and touch you guys. I'm here to tell you, as a first-hand accounts, I've been scratched and all kinds of stuff by these things.
Okay. Robert Hanna wants to know, Dave, do you think the men in black are... What do you think the men in black are?
Various theories on that. Some say they're aliens. Some say they're government agents, sent to shut people up and threaten them within an inch of their life. So, more theories. Till you have proof of one, it's a theory.
And from Liquid Dreamer, have you ever been back to that particular site? And I don't know which one they're talking about.
We're talking about the Bigfoot site? Yes, I have. Okay,
since the encounter, Dave.
Yeah. I like I said, I only live a short distance from it now. Okay. I'm actively researching it, actually.
Okay, that's all the questions we have right now.
All right, awesome.
Okay, well, Dave is... Oh, yeah. I'm hoping that Dave will do a Mothman show with me soon. That is another topic that I absolutely love. And
Wait
actually...
till the TV show I film comes out, and then we'll do one.
Okay. Oh, yeah, here. I have it. The Point Pleasant Files.
Yeah, that's a project me and David Weatherly are working on, SOS. That's volume 1 of probably a 3-part set we are doing about Point Pleasant and the Mothman.
Yes.
Because Point Pleasant not only had the Mothman sightings, it had massive UFO sightings, and it's very haunted. Numerous locations are very haunted in that town, too. So.
Oh, yeah.
You can get that DVD off of eBay. Just type in the Point Pleasant Files Volume 1, and you'll find that DVD, and we'll send you one.
I really want to do a show. Whenever you're ready, let me know, because Mothman is another of my favorite topics. Dave, is there anything else you want to talk to the viewers about and tell them anything?
No, just stay tuned. I got a lot of cool stuff coming soon, and new books are ready to drop pretty soon. Be looking for me on TV, because I got some shows coming out, and we got some more projects that SOS has did together that's coming out, me and Weatherly, in the very near future. And thanks to all you guys that have supported me for so long, and it's starting to come. It's starting to come out and getting more time on TV doing what I do and stuff, and I really appreciate all you guys' support over the years.
Now, what about your conference?
June 21st, 22nd at Willow's Weep House. Me, John Zaffis, David Weatherly, doing a VIP ghost hunt Friday night, and then Saturday we're having me, John Zaffis Weatherly, the Paris sisters, Barry Gaunt, and Kristen Lee will be speaking Saturday. There'll be vendor tables there. There will be food by Miss Brenda, the former owner, who's an awesome cook. She's going to cook the food for everybody, and we're going to have a good time.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be so awesome.
Tickets will go on sale in a week or so, and I'll post it all over everything.
Yeah, and I'll be posting on my Facebook page as well. And
yeah.
Let's see, one last question. Beat 3 Airspace, when is the movie coming out?
What movie?
I guess you should be in a movie.
Well, no, the Flatwoods Monster movie's already out. That was a movie I was in. The other stuff's all TV stuff on Destination America, History Channel, and Travel Channel.
That is really exciting. Just make sure you let me know when they come out, because, like I said, Dave did an absolutely fabulous job on his the TV shows that he's been in. Absolutely awesome. You're really, I mean, Dave, you should belong to SAG. Actually, you're
I just tell it like it happened. That's
I know.
Same as I've always been.
Yeah.
I just tell it like it is. Tell it like I experienced it, and that's how I am.
Yeah, you're very well spoken, and it's always a pleasure. I just love having you on the show. Okay, let's see. There's another message for you. B3 Airspace, good info, and thanks, Dave. We love you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
And
get my book. Check out my book, guys. You'll like it. Getting great reviews on Amazon too, by the way.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. The cover is awesome. And your other one, when's the other one coming out? That's coming out in about.
The next one coming out is Real West Virginia Hauntings Volume 1. I'm doing a whole series of these Real West Virginia Hauntings. That one's coming out anywhere, I'd say, within the next 3 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And
it's being edited right now by the publishing company, so I mean, I gotta wait on them. I did my part, now it's their turn.
Oh, I'm sure it's awesome. And hopefully Dave will do another show with me on the Ghosts of West Virginia. That'll be an exciting show.
Those books, guys, are what I'm trying to do with them. I've done so many investigations in West Virginia. I will have a ghost folklore and investigations that I've done in every single county in West Virginia, 55 counties. I will have at least one investigation I've done in every single county in this state. Some will have multiple, in multiple counties, but I'm the only person that's ever been allowed to investigate the actual Greenbrier Ghost Murder House. That's one of the most famous ghost stories ever known, where a man was convicted and sent to prison for killing his wife. So
and the witness was a ghost, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's crazy. Well,
it's a little more in depth than that, but a ghost testimony put this guy away. So
unbelievable.
Anyway, I got to get off of here. The kids got to go to bed, and I'm gonna get yelled at.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you so much. Our best wishes to you, and thanks again for being on the show. Love you, honey. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, awesome show with Dave as usual, and he's got so many exciting things coming up, but I'm sworn to secrecy. That's what best friends do. So everybody, thanks so much for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Oh gosh, wait a minute. How did that get in there? Hold on. Okay, there we go. Thanks for showing up for the show. I really appreciate it. Next week, let's see, who do we have next week? Oh, I'm doing a show next week, next Thursday. It's with Sean Austin. He's written a book, and he's going to talk about his hauntings, the demonic investigations that he's up against, and he's going to talk about the demons and the demonic hauntings. So that'll be a good show. And then also February 21st, Vanessa Hogel returns, and we're going to be it'll be on unexplained disappearances, mysteries, and murders. And so also with that, everybody, don't forget to give a thank you to our mods, Royce Hinman and Cassandra 50. Thank you so much. Without those two, we would not have the wonderful chat room that we have. And thank you all for your questions. Much appreciated. And don't forget to get Dave's book. And I'm sure it's a fabulous book. He's a fabulous writer. So let's do some shout outs. Let me see. Okay. Let's do some shout outs. B3 Airspace, Carolina Rome, Cassandra 50. Thank you. She's one of our mods. Cat Dodge, Chippa Terry, Christina Healy, Graham Crosby, Carl White, Crystal Sullivan, Dolores Gwynn, Dust Bunny, Esan, Greg Kaufman, Kill Switch 489, Leonora Morano, Lisa Marie, Mark Randall, Robert Hanna, Royce, our other mod. Don't forget, everybody, please send your prayers and positive energy to Royce. We got to keep him healthy. He really needs your prayers. Please pray for Royce, please. Susan Dowdy, Tammy Heitzman, and the Haglin, and Anita Ackerman. Oh, Annie. Annie's in chat too. Hi, Annie. I didn't see you. Annie is another of our moderators. I didn't see Annie. Okay. Oh, and Tracy Clark, Maria Sandra Amador, Michael Kane. Anybody else want to shout out? Anybody else want to shout out before I end the show? Okay, so don't forget, we got 2 good shows coming up in February. Oh, guess what? March? Vanessa Hogel and Julia Saracusa is coming back on March 7th. They did another investigation on the disappearance of this little girl, Holly, the Staten Island missing children. And it's going to be a good show because we did do a short show on Holly. Julia actually grew up with Holly up until the age of 8, and Julia was getting dreams about Holly, and so she felt she had to do something to try and find Holly. So that show will be really good. That's on March 7th, and Vanessa's part of that group with Julia Saracusa. And then on the 21st, Dave Spinks is coming back. I didn't even realize that. Urban Legends and West Virginia Ghosts. Yes, we're doing that on the 21st, and that should be a good show. So, with that, I'm going to say goodnight to you all. Again, thank you so much. Please don't forget to give the show a like, and please subscribe if you're new to the show, or if you're watching and you're not in chat, if you would subscribe, I'd appreciate it. So, I'm going to say goodnight, and thank you. Hey, have a great weekend. And on the news, I see so many people are suffering from the cold. And Algovia. And I feel so bad for you guys. It's 64 degrees here. Our winter, 64 degrees. Pretty soon it'll be like Hawaii here. We don't get the cold anymore. We used to get 17 degrees, but that was way back in the 70s. And every year it's gotten warmer and warmer. And someday it'll probably be like Hawaii here. It's terrible. We do not have a winter. So please stay warm, be safe, and I'm really sorry for your suffering that's happening to you. Christina Haley, hello. Okay, so I'm going to go. Don't forget our mods, Royce Hinman and Cassandra 50. Give them a big hug, and thank them, because, like I said, it's because of them that you have a nice chat room. We don't have any problems. All right, guys, I love you and thank you so much. I'll see you next Thursday already. I'll see you next Thursday, okay? So have a great weekend. Stay safe and warm. Love you guys. Good night. Love you.